Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and we are at Levsha Podcast, and today we have here Alain de Le Pen. Alain, for me, is one of I can say symbols of the localization community. So the man who made many things for that community to live, to exist. So the author of many the initiatives, Logjam. So all that the community thinks around game localization. And I hope we'll have some interesting talk today. But I'll, of course, give some time for Alain can introduce himself. So Alain, please do.
Okay, I'm Alain de Le Pen. I lead a video game translation team from English to Italian. I actually have been working with Levsha since 2016, so it's been quite a while. In our case, we never managed to actually meet in person because I live in Japan. I've been managing and leading a team of video games translators since 2008. I'm working in video game localization since 2003.
Thank you, Alain. And first thing I can say that as you can notice that I completely misread your surname. Sorry for that.
Oh yeah, but that's normal. That's expected. I'm actually happy. It's at least you got Alain right. That often becomes Alain, Helen. So yeah, no, you're already doing very well. So no worries.
Yeah, that just that my colleagues, while seeing you in the mailing list, first they actually think you're French because it looks really French. So I guess you have such experience in your life, then just people are thinking that you are French and starting speaking French.
I actually have a French passport. I am double nationality because my mother is French. She's still alive. But yeah, I'm culturally full Italian. But yeah, the name is French.
Yes, it uncovers that mystery bit, and so I guess that where have you grown up? So is it north of Italy or?
Yeah, north of Italy.
So Alain, you live in Japan, and you a completely European guy. You come to Japan, and so what? How it is for you, how you feel, and what was the reason how you decided? So.
I mean, I was called here for a project. I was fun fact. I actually had bought a house just the week before coming here, because in my case I lived for 2 years in England. And then I said, no, I want to come back to Italy. That's where my roots are, where my family is. So I work hard to buy a house in the center of Genoa, where I live. My family lives. And then I did a project for Square Enix, which was Valkyrie Profile Silmeria 2. And they liked what I did. And they said, okay, would you like to come to Japan for doing the next project? Because for Silmeria, which is adorable, they actually sent me a PlayStation 2 testing kit by mail. So I actually received it by Federal Express. I had the testing console, and then every week they will FedEx a new build of the game, so I could test it from my bedroom in Genoa. And then it was not the most efficient of setups. So they said, okay, for the next project, would you like to come to Tokyo? And I said, okay, it will be just this last hurrah after all this living abroad. Finally, I will just have this fun. And then I set up here. I came here, I met my wife, the person that became my wife in 2 weeks. And I never actually slept in the house that I bought in Genoa. So I actually bought it. I stayed here substantially non-stop since 2008. And then I just sold that house without ever sleeping a single night inside it. Because I bought it 1 week before coming here, and then it's a nice place. And then with the proceeds, I actually bought what you can see here. This is my Tokyo house. So it's a nice place. It's I enjoy it.
Yeah, but you tell it like it was just like a casual ride. So just for example, that you have taken a train from Genoa to, for example, Milano or Paris, and just nice city. I'll be here, but it just Japan. So just first of all, the language, and we are talking just about languages. Do you know Japanese?
I'm still very bad at Japanese. Nihongo heta desu. I'm really, really bad. So that's luckily. I mean, there's an additional level is that I didn't move just from Italy to Japan. I moved from Genoa, which is 600,000 inhabitants, to Tokyo, which I think is 10 million. I don't know. I don't even know. I can Google that, but it's jumping from a scale that is provincial within Europe to one of the biggest cities of the world. So it's there's also that big impact for me, which was again moving. I mean, I worked for Rockstar Games, but I was in the Rockstar Lincoln office, so that was 50 people. And then you move, in this case, working for Square Enix. Square Enix, it was this giant open space on a skyscraper with in Shinjuku, so in front of the busiest station in the world, literally. So there's also this additional level, which is, it is Japan, but also at the same time it is jumping from very provincial to very international. And so it was, like I said, I mean, it's the weird sensation of, our office had a smoking room. And so you had people actually going out. It was actually the room with the best view in the whole place. Now it's getting less, but in my case, I actually stopped smoking before coming to Japan, because I said, of course, they don't smoke in Japan. They're so advanced, and then everybody smokes everywhere. And so it was, there's this layer on top. And then, the Japanese culture is, for the first few years, I had the impact, the shock, but also there's this defense mechanism that we have as Europeans of saying, but everything is weird. It's, of course, I don't understand it. It's just so weird and so strange. And no, in the end, I mean, people are people. They have just their own reasons that are slightly different. I think a lot of what we don't understand is how much nobody minds their own business in Japan. So you have everybody's on the back. I mean, I'm not joking. Now they stopped, but it used to be for the old type of foldable phones. There was a plastic film that you could put that was polarized so that people from the side cannot read it. That you could only read if you go really, really in front of you, but the person next to you couldn't. And this is not something that you could sell in Italy, because if somebody peered into your mobile phone and says, "What are you doing?" So they will just get a slap in the face. It's a product that doesn't need to exist. But in Japan, you cannot tell to a person that she's glancing at your phone. So I will put my own filter. And again, this is an example of something that we find so completely weird and outlandish, so wacky. It has its own logic in the culture that is around here. So it's small gaps like that. But like I said, the big difference for me is, again, it's difficult for me to compare because I come from a much more provincial dimension.
Did you have any skyscrapers in Genoa?
I actually went to give my CV in the skyscrapers in Genoa. I think it's like the tallest was like 20 floors, something like that. Like I'm not joking. You here in Tokyo, you just go casual. You say, okay, let's go a restaurant. It's like the 70th floor and something like that. It's just like a random skyscraper. People don't even care. So yeah, it's a different scale. That was the impact for me. That was much more strong than the Shinto shrines and stuff like that. That is much more on the side.
And taking back to the language thing, so just first of all, I guess that you come to Japan, and the first thing that I expect, you couldn't really read anything, just because you have the completely different signing symbols. I don't know what's the level of English in the just everyday communication, like you buying ticket for a train. Does anyone understand English there? So how it was?
I have my train pass here. Tomorrow I'm going to Niigata. I know that you're a keen hiker, so I will send you the photos after the weekend. I'm going to a place with should be very, very nice. Some friends that were here in Tokyo, and then they moved over there, and then they organizing a race, a trail running race around there. And so I stayed there the weekend, and this was my great achievement. I managed to change my train pass speaking in Japanese. That was my crowning achievement. Must say that it was in this is all written in English actually, because this was in the office for the tourist, because if you have a foreign passport you can get cheaper tickets. So my Japanese level is, I managed to explain myself well in Japanese with a person that actually knows English already, so can actually probably understand all the mistakes I'm doing as a non-native speaker. It takes time. In my case, I have only done, there's this test called the JLPT test, Japan Language Proficiency Test. And there are like 5 levels, and I did number 5, and I tried to do number 4, but I got bored because of studying. I do enough languages. You can imagine, in your case, Fedor, you finish your day doing like 10,000 words of revision, and then you say, you know what I want now? Studying some irregular verbs. Just cracking the grammar and memorizing stuff. No, it's taking me time. So anyway, I did JLPT 5, which is this very lovely moment of integration, because you go there and you take the train, they do this test multiple times during the year, and you see like the first generation immigrants, you see the people with the veil, you see people that really just arrived to Japan and really trying to do their best. And I can say that already was pretty hard for me because it is like already memorizing like 200, 300 symbols and all the stuff. And again, probably if I had the full day, I will do it. Now it's just on the side, trying around, or like you say, it's the weird thing about kanji is that you cannot know how to pronounce a word that you haven't met before. So, for example, if I take the train, there's no guarantee that I can read the name of the station. I can guess more or less what it can mean, because 90% of the names in Japan, they talk about the places they destroyed. So Akihabara is actually the fields of autumn, and it's just destroyed. Or it is in... or you have some magic like here, that the river is called Sen Kawa, which is so the river Sen, but the city is called the Sengawa, and it is written exactly the same way. So you have to know before. So it is it's very time consuming, and like a friend of mine said, it takes 10 years living here. I don't know. I have friends that learn very well. I have a friend that works in Sega now, and he's Italian. In his case, he just got here, but he only focused on this. And also his recommendation is getting a class with the Chinese, because if you stay with the foreigners, it will be all easy and helping you. The Chinese actually know the kanji already, and better than the Japanese, because the Japanese kanji are actually like a simplified version of the Chinese kanji. So there is this very annoying thing that they will talk to you and they will write the kanji on their hand. So I don't know what you're talking about. Stop doing this. I say, it's this. Yes, So that's the recommendation. But it's I'm good at keeping up with English and Italian, which is what I sell. So fair enough. I never sold Japanese to you. You can confirm this. So yeah.
And just another thing that I'm curious about, that you are living in Japan for 15 years now. Yes, but your main language is Italian, and you work with Italian, the Italian localization. But how do you keep up with what is going on with modern Italian? So because there are possibly some new words that is popular just among youngsters, or some new expressions. So
there is this new thing which I think maybe you've heard about. It's called the internet. There's this amazing new technology that makes that, for example, if I put Disney Plus going on, I can actually put the audio in Italian. Everything is dubbed very well. There's 2 levels to this. The first level is that the team is in Italy. I'm not the only translator here. I work with, we are a 5-people team. I'm the one that does the revision, but the translation is mostly done by the rest of the team, first level. And second level is that maybe it is different in other languages, but in Italian, the language of fiction, the language of writing, is not strictly the same as everyday languages, because in our case Italian is still very regional. So if I wrote exactly like I will talk with my friends, that is a Genoa character. And again, you don't want it will be the same as having an orc that speaks with an accent from New York. If you're doing a parody, okay, but otherwise it just doesn't work. So, I mean, in the end, as a translator, you are a language professional, a bit of a researcher in that. So part of my routine is watching how adaptation has been done. And the very boring kind of person that watches the same movie first in English, then in Italian, then with the subtitles and so on. And just internalizing this parallel language, which is the language of media, which is, like I said, it's not the same as every day. So in my cases, sometimes I had clients that said, okay, so where do you live now? Oh yeah, full-time in Japan. Okay, thank you. We will never work again together. Fair enough. I mean, I feel this is not... I mean, when I was a kid, my dad, we will go in France and he will buy the newspaper, Corriere della Sera. There was only one Italian newspaper that you could buy around. It was printed on rice paper, because like that it was lighter and they could put it on the airplane and fly it to Paris, so where it could be sold. We don't have this problem anymore. I can watch Italian TV now. So I feel that was, there was a time where living abroad completely cut you off. I feel I speak better than some of my friends that live in Italy, because you can live in Italy without ever hearing Italian if you're nerdy enough. You just watch series all day and you forget how to speak in Italian. In my case, it's part of my job to stay updated. Simple as that.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the team of translators is in Italy, and you mainly do review. Have you had, so just in current examples, then they were writing some word and you don't understand what does it mean? Because in my experience, there were some cases. Then, and I am just around 40 soon, and there is a language of people under 20. And there are some special words that you don't understand from the start. You need to just look for them in the internet and say, "Oh my God, it's a special expression that means this in Russian." So,
like I said, in Italian we have this less because any realistic jargon would not work well in a fiction environment. You cannot be that realistic in the way people talk. If I put a real slang term, it will be immediately jarring, which is something that you can do. But again, it is actually, the paradox is that I'm more of a purist of my team. So sometimes I say, look, this is really a calque from English. Do we really want to use no, yeah, if I can come up with an example later, I will say. But the point is, sometimes we have one-to-one translations from English, and I am the one that said, but shouldn't we stick a little bit more to an Italian equivalent? I said, no, Alain, this is really actually getting really, really common, really used, and there are some battles that I left into that. So in my case, it's less about the fact of me being here. It's more about my constant state of mind of actually keeping away from that. I'm the one that is always trying to go towards the more pure Italian version of something, while in their case they're more exposed to the daily mix, where anyone that say, I actually heard a podcast the other day, and somebody just talking normal in conversation, instead he actually said, oh yeah, stop flexando. Flexando is to flex, to show up, like you would say flexing in English. And flexando is really obviously a calque, but everybody was okay with it. So actually, yeah, I wouldn't use that in a work of mine, because I feel it's still borderline. But yeah, like I said, it's less about keeping in touch. It's more about the fact that I really study this stuff, and I still try. Also because I feel that Apple doesn't use a slang. There is the idea that if you want a perception of quality, sometimes you need to be a little bit behind, just a little bit, just that little hint of old-fashioned, because it just gives more authority. It just makes you more authoritative. It gives a bit more of gravitas to what you're doing. While, I mean, you can do it as an effect to be completely on the cutting edge of how the language is. But for the work that we're doing, if I have to make a AAA product that wants to be perceived as high quality and beautiful, Halo wouldn't use a slang to say. Halo wouldn't say, yo, bro. No, he would stay a little bit behind just to give that cinematic feel. So yeah, that's something. I mean, I'm obviously biased on that, but my perspective is that it's not that simple as keep in touch with the modern talk. Yes, of course, but we're not doing just a conversation. We're creating a narrative experience which has its own style, which is not daily talk.
It's a very interesting topic, Alain. So I pretty share your opinions about conversations and how that style should be. So you shouldn't, so that, oh my God, it could sound like weird, but I still think that while making some texts, some narratives in any language, it should be just a bit, that upper level of quality of text. Like if you read something, it should be good text to read, because good texts are make people better, so that they just stimulate thinking that it's. I personally, at least I was very reading guy, and I like that the well-formulated text. It makes me happy to read words that are well-formulated.
It's a little bit of a dance. You want to have the maximum effect without being heavy. You want the flow of the sentence to work well in the context. You want to put the style without calling too much attention to it. There's a lot of a dance around it.
Yes, and the thing I wanted to ask, there is also a gaming language, the special terms, and I didn't know how it was in Italian. So because then it was a boom of games, and you suddenly needed to use some terms to name these things that were not in the language previously. Perks, stats, hit points, NPCs, whatever. So are they now in dictionaries, in just any standard Italian dictionaries, or is there any scientific work done in this field to codify how it works?
Keep in mind, we always keep an eye on it, and we are. I always focus on the gameplay. There is always this tension. I see it sometimes with testers that don't really separate well the narrative level and the gameplay level. Because if I say the sword is in your hand, and you say, oh yeah, but let's put brandish the sword. Okay, yeah, brandish the sword is what you will say in a book, but sword in your hand, it could be two gameplay concepts that you have, the weapon and the slot. And there is always a very big tension of trying to keep the style level while not breaking the gameplay below. And of course, a perk is a perk. We have standards translation for that. There's also a filter you need to keep. I always come from the perspective of Italian. Italian is like the seventh language people think about. So it always comes, when it comes to us, it comes usually. It's rare that it is a very, very small project. It's rare that it is very, very niche, because if they have the budget to do Italian, it means that they have the budget to do quite a few languages. And when it arrives to us, they want to widen the market. They don't want us to be incredibly niche. They want us to make it understandable, keep the terms, but it's never really happens. They say, oh yeah, leave perk. We want it in English because that's what in the forums they will use. No, they will want us to find a good equivalent in Italian, which is the standard term that will be used in that field. But it's, again, that's research of the extreme side of the spectrum is, in our case, applies less. Like I said, it doesn't apply for the narrative parts in Italian because we have the problem of the regional variations of Italian, which we need to stay away from. The ultra jargony stuff, it can happen, but it's not that extreme again, because they want to widen the market. They don't want to narrow it down. When it arrives, okay, we're doing a version in Italian, okay, they will say we want to sell as many as those as we can. So we actually are on a very big online game where they actually want us to translate as much as possible, to the point that it is weird for me, but I'm really required to do it. And there have been other cases where they say to be a bit less heavy, but at the same time that nobody ever came us to say, okay, speak like a forum, because that's already one point that is really too far for what they're trying to do, which is sell games to as many people like they can.
And what is Italian word for perk, like we have discussed it now?
Perk depends on the game.
Let's make it basic, like in Fallout.
Fallout, actually, we translated the guide. Let me check. Perk. Usually we use vantaggio for this kind of stuff. Otherwise, we go for bonus malus. There's just a couple of words that just come around all the time, and we just stick to that. And then it also depends on, so if you have buff and debuff, you will find terms that are in opposing pairs, so that they work out well.
Yeah, so what is particularly interesting for me, that if there is any, scientific base under it, so just for example, if you open an Italian dictionary, yeah, and you see the meanings of word, for example, vantaggio, and you say the meaning number for video games, a special trait that just allows your character to do this or that, or not.
Has it entered for Russian? Has it entered dictionaries already?
No, and it was that just in the university, yes, that my topic was social linguistics, and particularly the language norm and language code. And then I was thinking if I maybe start doing some science and just write a PhD work. It was I was thinking about so that entering of IT and games words into the language, yes, and especially that for Russian we had a bit different thing because it was so like from at one moment we had no things just for it, very small amount of computers, of such things, of some electronic entertainment, and then was a blast, and the market was full of it, and the language needed to adapt and to catch it fast.
Usually English words that get adapted, or it is Russian words that just get codified to say, okay, this is this?
Mainly it's English words, and so you know that there are some fun examples that you know that there is term icon, yes, in Windows, whatever, you have icons, yes. And
then you have the Russian icons.
Yes, and we have icons in churches. Yes, and there is a wide used word like ikonka. So it's like if we told French like iconette. So the suffix that just makes it small, tiny, and cozy, and in some localizations of some software, it was used like it was, so use ikonka, see ikonka, whatever. But the purists like you and like me that were writing Russian style guides, they said like ikonkas you have in churches. And so there is no such thing in computer, and there was the translation like a pictogram, so a label, whatever.
It was very funny. I did a revision yesterday where not from our team. It was just a reference memory that I saw. I searched headshot. It was very funny because headshot. Okay. A forum will leave it in English, and most professional games will then do it. And then you have colpo alla testa, which is the hit on the head, which is the correct version. And there is colpo di testa, which is headshot like you will do in soccer. And in this case, it was colpo di testa will kill the enemy. And somebody said, okay, so it was Zinedine Zidane soccer. Killing people, going headbutting people. That's an example. I mean, the standard translation is colpo alla testa. Colpo di testa is very similar. It's a completely wrong meaning.
Yeah, and Alain, you told it, and the next question quite naturally arises of it. So, colpo alla testa, 3 words. Headshot, 1 word. What we do at the chart limits. So
English is very redundant. I mean, what happens is that on the short way, there's no way. It's headshot is colpo alla testa, just because for the structure of the verb, but the grammar. But on the other hand, it's in English is very often it is they will put many adjectives one after the other or stuff like that. It's the feeling is that English is a little bit like a xylophone. You have many different sounds together the way it's written. Italian is more like a violin. We have one very specific term for one very specific thing that resonates in a very specific way. So again, while working on a longer sentence, Italian can be quite economical because of that. It's very difficult for me to make an example in one single spot, but yeah, that's the idea. English is very fragmented because it's like many little words, one next to the other. So it's night living animal, and in our case we will say nocturno. We have one specific, almost scientific term just for that, and so it balances out. Then of course structurally there's no way. Russian is okay with the spacing. You have to fight to fit it inside.
Oh, usually that the pain, that usual pain is you need shortenings with dots. First you need to shorten, and second you need to say, oh my God, some declensions we have here, but they couldn't indicate it. Let's just put a dot here.
Yeah, variables in Russian must be fun. You have %1, %2, and you just go, oh no.
Yeah, there's many special tips and tricks how to you just avoid mentioning speaker's gender or the time. So there are in guides and just learning. Then you're just trying to educate a video game localizer. You need to just explain how to say it in the way that it could fit for male and female and future past.
We also have something like that for polite forms, because in Italian it is still expected in some city. I mean, for most of the time you can be informal with everyone, but there are some cases where if you speak with a king, it's really strange that you don't use a polite form. But if I'm getting a string goulash, I just receive 1 million strings all mixed together. I cannot know, and so there is an art of making it could be formal, it could be informal, you never know. It's just localization magic trick.
Yeah, but they are now just very close to quite usual chat in any localization forum. Oh my God, they don't give us reference. We need to make so that purified and dull translations that yes, of course, then they need to fit many cases. So for male, for female, for polite, for impolite, that you need to be very neutral, and you of course you lose some.
The big challenge we have is that we work with narrative text. Sometimes it's like doing a movie, but we're being managed by programmers. Somebody have no idea. So I always come back to that. I did a major AAA title where they will send us the dialogues by character, 1 character per week, which means that if character A was talking to character B, we will have all the lines of character A and we had to guess what character B will say in the middle, because then they will mash up in a conversation that we didn't get. Many projects it's hard, and then the game comes out, it's hard to tell the players. I say, you don't know how it's just a miracle that these things exist. You have no idea, but once it's out, it's of course. That's clear what they were talking about. No, it wasn't.
Yes, of course. You see the dialogue, but the just example you provided is especially fun. Then you're recording these dialogues, and you need to tell the actor. So just you're replying to an unknown sentence. So let's pretend it is, and then you're sitting again. Oh my God, we've missed that.
I spoke with an actor that said sometimes I just look imploringly after the technician. Said, "Do we know who is talking to whom about what?" And I just go, "Do your best."
Some usual localization chatter that that it never ends, and I don't think it will ever end.
That's one of the few cases you prefer bugs, because at least you know what's going on. I'm shot. I'm dying. I'm bleeding.
Especially like for recording, then you need to record painful death from electricity 1, painful death from electricity 3, and you just explain actor that you need to be not but like more electricity, put more electricity in there, like
please make it more electric.
yes, you're not short, you are not so, and then now you switch death from suffocation, and it's a completely another thing.
And then you think that this person thinking, I spent 7 years studying theater for this. So
do you know it's it's work? I bet you've seen it many times with the young translators that come to you and say, "Oh my God, Alain, we want to localize words. We want to be creative, to give our voice to characters." And you hear it written down, and then, okay, guys, now you have 10 marketing requests to be delivered day by day. Let's start. So that's work. Yes.
Seeing the light turning off inside their eyes. No, it's something interesting I heard the other day is the idea of pulp. The idea is, for example, if somebody, just imagine a writer of romance novels. There is a space of what they need to provide as a commercial product. And then within that, it can get creative, but there are some... in my career, there are games that I remember fondly, and I think that they are cultural items. I think about Papers, Please, a game about checking the documents. It is very special both for the gameplay and for the themes that it brings. And there's a lot of pulp stuff that scratches a itch. Don't remember if you worked around that time. There was the time of the Nintendo DS, and there was a deluge of games about okay, now you are making sushi. Let's make sushi rolls on the Nintendo DS. Now you are a veterinary. There was this glorious series of shovelware games for girls about being a veterinary, being a fashion creator. The first game my team ever did as a team was a game about astrology. So it was for Nintendo DS, and it was so sloppily written that we had to tell to the team as a query. I said, "Guys, I think that you get the dates for the different signs wrong. Leo doesn't start this day." And it was just filled with, you can imagine this new agey thing about planets and so on. And we just did our best. It is, again, there are sometimes you have the satisfaction of doing what you think is a cultural product, a culture. And very often you're doing a product, which doesn't mean that you do it badly, but you just, again, the astrology, you can imagine that every single level of that astrology project was people just say, okay, I have to pay the rent, I have to pay the rent, I have to pay the rent, I pay the rent. Which means that, of course, you cannot come to them and say, okay, no, but let's rewrite it so that we can really feel the deep meaning of astrology. They wouldn't care, but you can try to do it as well as you can. And stay within your time, do a clean product, don't make, just try to improve where you can. And then, just stay within what the client asks. And sometimes it's just, a shovelware product, pulp. Fair enough. It's a cool job.
I know that. Yes, that it's really, if just always thinking that if I'm so classy, so arrogant that I work only the high level cultural products and that I don't have anything with the pulp, that in my perspective it's an opinion. So it have right to live, but it will end that you will that all that poor philosophers, but claiming that, but I am pure. Okay, it's an attitude, but it's not my attitude. So I'm a usual person. I have my family. I want my family to live a decent life. That then I need to sometimes, yes, of course, there are some borderlines, some projects and some topics I don't want to have just something in common with. But
sometimes, it's just also thinking about the audience, just trying to provide a good service for the audience. And sometimes, what you're doing for the audience is a shovelware game about astrology. Fair enough.
Yeah, like German philosophy says to us, there is stars in the sky above us and the moral law inside us, and then I need to just adapt with my moral law and select the projects we work or we don't work with. So, Alain, thank you very much. I think we have time for one last topic. So, the machine translation, AI, GPT models. So, what do you think? What's the future for them in our industry?
What's your take? Have you used any of that besides the magnificent cover of this podcast? What was your experience with AI so far?
I can split it in a couple of topics. So first of all, then sometimes I need to read a foreign, a newspaper. So like Corriere della Sera. So I want to understand what's just happening in Italy from Italian sources, and I don't know Italian. So I need to use some machine translation to just have a grasp of meaning of what I'm reading. Or just another example, I had a Lancia car from year 2000, and it's very, I can say it's very Italian engineered, so it's very, very
Which
pretty.
model?
And it was Lancia Y, so Lancia Y, the small one. Yes, like a motorsports guy, I'm of course a big fan of Delta Integrale. I have a model, I have wallpapers of it. It's just a lovely car. But for that Lancia Y, I had a service manual, the fig book, but in Italian. And to understand how to fix it, you use the machine translation, then it helps. That's one part. The second part is the language models that are so popular for today, Chat GPT, whatever, that I can say that sometimes they really help to for topics. Then you feel that you don't need to put your own effort here. throw me some ideas for I can just edit them. And as a translator, then I was the translating myself. I was very lazy translator. I prefer to edit. I love editing. Then I have source, and I then take words and shape them into the best way. And the third thing is that I don't use it personally, but my partner, our technical director, he says that it really helps him with programming. Like in the same sense I have mentioned before, that is too big task. I don't know how to start it. Then you ask, Chat GPT, write me something. And you have the base to just, it's a bad code, but I can use it as a shape. So that's my experience. Then I use it personally. And another part of experience is clients that say, oh my God, guys, wonderful topic. We are now post-editing machine translation. And only I can say, 10% of such cases are about something decent. And other example are very bad. Let's make it words think that they deserve. So that's my experience.
Yeah, I was thinking, which angle to take about this. I feel in the end, in our specific niche, the point is that we're not hired for translating A with B. That hasn't been the job for a lot of time. Maybe 40 years ago, when it was really people with typewriters and dictionaries, that was a substantial part of the job of, okay, this is the guy that has the dictionaries and knows the language. But in our case, it is really already about managing what the original text says, what a normal standard direct translation will be, and twist it so that it works. So in my case, I got asked once about the translation for Cuphead that we did. We did the translation. Cuphead, this game inspired by the style of the 1930s. And could you machine translate Cuphead and make it viable as a platformer? Yes, because as long as it explains to you what is a double jump, you're okay. The fatal flaw of Cuphead is that it was a game about the nostalgia of the 30s. It was about reliving that era. We had Mussolini in Italy in the 30s. We don't have nostalgia for it. So the cartoons of that era were actually forbidden in Italy. So it is, if we kept it exactly as it is, it will feel empty because it's calling to something that people had no experience with. So in our case, what we did is we replaced, and it's subtle because it's not like we shout it, but our reference is not really 1930s cartoons. It is 1950 and 1960s comic books, because in Italy we had Mickey Mouse, Topolino. Mickey Mouse magazine is a cultural institution. There's a huge, to this day, one of the biggest Disney schools that they make stories for Mickey Mouse is in Italy. So there is all this rich background that is really, that's the nostalgia. So the original, the original makers of Cuphead wanted to relive the memory of watching the old tapes of cheap 1930s cartoons that their mom gave to them. We didn't have that, so what it is for us is the picture I gave to the team, is something that I always try to have for a project, is a feeling that I should give to you. In this case, it is the old Mickey Mouse magazine books that you would read when you go on summer vacation. that they smell a little bit of must, and there is this childhood memory because they have been left there in the sea house for a whole year. You open them, and that's feeling that you get, and that's my job. My job is not really to have A to B, is give that little twist so that you can relive that experience. And that's the means through that, how that will come, I don't know. Like you say, it's not there technologically, but for example, I've always been I always use cat tools with my team because I feel it is just frees us. I mean, why should I use a typewriter? Creativity doesn't come from using Excel. Excel doesn't give me something. It actually slows me down. If I can put all my talents inside a tool that is made to help me, yeah, absolutely. We will see if it helps. Now, cut tools are, it's very funny because people that don't really know about translation say, oh, yeah, because, AI will help you by saving you time, telling you translations that have already been done. Yeah, we have that. It's called a cut tool. That's where my living comes from. So yeah, that's my angle. That's what I think. What we bring to the table is different and doesn't really overlap yet with what AI is said to do. Then we will see.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Alain. That it's a perfect example, and we really love it. So that, I think, that a place for Coda. Thank you very much for joining me today, and it was really interesting.
Have a lovely weekend.